All right, I do want to wrap on the ACC because I thought it was pretty interesting basically watching the Florida State and Clemson games back-to-back. And here's why I thought it was interesting. Because Florida State, for people who did not see it, they lost to Georgia Tech. And it's not only that they lost to Georgia Tech, they were awful. They were legitimately, abjectly, no doubt about it, terrible, okay? And I'll tell you this. I picked Florida State. I picked the under. That was my best bet of the weekend. If you listen to my betting picks on last episode, that was one of my best bets because I said, look, I don't think Florida State's that good. But I didn't know they were that bad. For people who didn't see it, they lost 16-13 to Georgia Tech, 3 turnovers. Their O-line still can't block anybody, and essentially that was my big concern with them coming into the year. I know that Mike Norvell's their new head coach. He came from Memphis, big hot shot, whatever. Doesn't matter how good the coach is if the O-line can't block, if the receivers can't get open, if the running backs can't create, it doesn't matter. And so that's what we saw with Florida State. But after the game, there was a very interesting stat that I saw tweeted out, or that I saw and I actually tweeted out myself, and that was that this is Florida State's fourth straight loss to open the season. So for the 4th season in a row, they have lost to open the season. And that is an absolute, when I heard that, I was stunned, okay? Because for people who do not know, for people who are under 30, Florida State, when I was a kid, they just lost their 4th straight season opener. Insane. When I was a kid, you could argue that Florida State was the best program in college football. I looked up this stat because I want to make sure it was correct. This is how Florida State, when I was a kid, in the 90s, many of you grew up in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Many of you are about my age. I'm in my mid-30s. Some of you are in your early 30s. Some of you are in your late 30s. Florida State was maybe the most consistent program in college football. They were essentially like Clemson. They didn't win it every year, but they basically ran over the entire ACC. They were just so much better than everybody else. And so I looked up this stat. I wanted to make sure it was correct. I couldn't believe that it was possibly correct, but it was. And this was the stat. From 1987 until 2000, that's 14 straight seasons, they finished no worse than number 5 in the country. Let me say that again. For 14 straight seasons, they finished the year no worse than number 5 in the country. That is insane. That is if Clemson did what they've done over the last 6 or 7 years and doubled it. That is if what Alabama has essentially done if you add 5 more years to it. That is what Florida State was in the late 80s and early 90s. I want to read you their win-loss record starting in 1987. 1987, finished the year 11-1. 1988, 11-1. 1989, 10-2, 10-2, 11-2, 11-1, 12-1, 10-1-1 in 94, 10-2, 11-1 in 96, 11-1 in 97, 11-2 in 98, 12-0 in 99, 11-2 in 2000. Every single year, they finished in the top 5 from 1987 to 2000. That is insane when you look at the current situation at Florida State, and it's just amazing to me how bad they've gotten how quickly. Because the insane thing was, not only were they that good for that long, then they got good again under Jimbo Fisher. And so it was cracking me up because I was looking up Bobby Bowden before I came on this show. His last year he went 7-6. They forced him out. They would kill. That program would kill for 7-6 right now. You look at what they've done the last few years. They went what? I think they had to reschedule a game a few years ago to get bowl eligible. Last 2 years they haven't been bowl eligible. Then they lose to Georgia Tech. That is insane how far they've fallen. And even if you're not old enough to remember them in the 90s and early 2000s, like 2013, they were really good 5 years ago. Never forget, they won the national championship in 2013. In 2014, they made the first ever college football playoff, undefeated. Won the ACC the following year. Went 10-3 and 10-3 in 2 of Jimbo's last 3 years. It's just insane to me how far they've fallen. And the only other thought I really had from Saturday is, 1, it's insane how far they've fallen. And 2, it's insane how good Clemson is, man. I'm just telling you, for people who do not remember college football from before about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I know some of you are young. some of you are new to the sport. Like, I still think we don't talk enough about how great Clemson has become and how quickly, okay? Like, this was the program. If Florida State was the most consistently great program, the Clemson of the 90s and early 2000s, Clemson was what, I don't even know what would be the right analogy right now. Kind of like what Tennessee has been the last few years. And shout out to the Tennessee fans, because I think you're trending in the right direction under Jeremy Pruitt. But you know how, like, Tennessee, something always goes wrong. Texas, the last couple of years, something always goes wrong. That was how Clemson was. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the fact, as I was watching Clemson just steamroll Wake Forest, they weren't even that good. Clemson probably played a B- game, got the win. I was thinking, can you imagine, for those of you who are college football fans who are old enough to remember pre-Dabo, can you imagine in 2008, the year before Dabo got hired, telling a college football fan, in 10 years, this is what's going to happen. Clemson is going to hire a wide receivers coach with no previous head coaching experience. And he is going to turn, his name's Dabo, by the way, and he is going to turn Clemson into a juggernaut that is one of the 2 best teams in the country every single year. Inconceivable. Insane. And so I was just thinking about that as the game went final, but really this is about Florida State, and really what it's about is just the fact that I just cannot believe how bad they've gotten, how quickly, and frankly how good Clemson has gotten, and how quickly that has happened.